reintroduce myself. My name is Abhineet Gupta. I'm a current fourth year, and I'm also the current acting president of the Student Council. And I've been associated with JLI for quite some time now. Well, I'm probably the youngest member of the JLI, and
Okay, good. That's good.
yeah, I've been trying to get as much work as I can done on campus, and I've been trying to help out wherever I can. So yeah,
Okay.
that's a little bit about me. So anyway, so let's start. So the goal and the purpose of this entire interview is to almost open up for the younger journalists what the JLI is and how a lot of uh, alumni in the US are helping a lot of the younger journalists and inspiring them to maybe pursue the goals which they would otherwise wouldn't have thought of. And yeah, and we think that knowing knowing about a lot of the work that you've done in helping a lot of these younger journalists come to the US, and that overall process is something that is really inspiring for a lot of us here. And your journey in general is something that we hope a lot of our students here will take away some parts of and implement in their own lives. So maybe as this interview goes forward, we can shed more light on a lot of these topics and get
Okay.
to that goal. Yeah, so I will start from here. So, hello everybody. Today I'm joined with a really senior Johnite of ours, a very, very well respected Dr. Kumar Belani, who's currently, instead of me doing the honors, if you'd like to give us a short introduction into yourself and what kind of work you do, that would be
Okay.
appreciated.
So I'm actually an anesthesiologist, and currently I'm a professor in anesthesiology, and I have adjunct appointments in medicine and pediatrics. Because of my global work, I was endowed with a distinguished international professorship by the Academic Health Center quite a few years ago. And now I'm at the tail end of my work. I'm in a I'm in a phased retirement mode. I've been here close to 50 years, and I came here directly from St. John's Medical College.
Uh-huh.
So that's how I ended up here.
50 years. And so anyway, so how are your days in John's like? What do you remember of your UG MBBS days?
Yeah.
What are some of the what are the memories that you recollect the most?
Let me start a little bit about my journey. So I began my
Uh-huh.
journey in India as a curious medical student,
Mm-hmm.
and I was deeply interested in physiology and problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
Over time, that curiosity led me to anesthesiology, a specialty that sits at the intersection of medicine,
Mm-hmm.
technology, and also patient safety. Today, I wear several hats. Like I said, I'm a clinician and an educator. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
researcher. I've been a mentor to many students and trainees, and also a global collaborator.
Mm-hmm.
I've had the privilege of training not only at St. John's Medical College, but also in the United States, serving in leadership roles at
Mm-hmm.
the University of Minnesota, and have contributed quite immensely to research in
Mm-hmm.
areas like patient safety, pediatric anesthesia, and toxicology, and
Mm-hmm.
have maintained strong academic and educational ties with India.
Mm-hmm.
What truly defines my work now is helping others, especially young physicians, to find clarity, purpose, and opportunity in their own journeys. Okay. So while I was doing my MBBS, the years were quite formative, at St. John's. And at times they were quite overwhelming because we had professors like Dr. Hasmukh Mehta,
Mm-hmm.
Doctors K.N. Sharma,
Mm-hmm.
and Dr. John Thomas in microbiology and pathology, Dr. Seth in pediatrics as a pediatrician, and so on and so forth. But the work at St. John's was incredibly grounding. I ended up being the class representative, and so was paying a close attention to everything going on in college,
Mm-hmm.
encouraging my classmates to do the best they could, and while keeping them well and also socially active. By being a day scholar, I was able to do that and keep in touch
Mhm.
with the students who were staying on campus. And at that time, the key decisions were not just academic, they were about learning,
Mhm.
discipline, uh, trying to choose mentors wisely, even though I wasn't quite familiar about with that concept at the time, but defaulted to the people whom I interacted with quite well. It was quite difficult to get to know the professors early on in anatomy, biochemistry, and physiology, but actually I got to know them quite well, despite Dr. Mehta being extremely strict, as
Yeah.
everybody might have known. But I do remember as a class representative when I had to go to his home to request an extension for an examination that was common to do before the final examination. And my classmates informed me that I need to go and ask him to provide a 1 week extension for that. And it was quite a difficult task, but I said, as class rep, I have to go and I got to do it. So I went to his home, and it was late in the evening, and he welcomed me and offered me tea and things, and we talked about numerous things, and I said our classmates would like the extension by a week. And I don't clearly remember the reason why we wanted the extension, but he finally agreed. And from then on, I became his friend. And also, same thing with Dr. Sharma. He had a physiology and pharmacology meeting that he hosted. It was a global and a national meeting, and he sought my help since I was a day scholar to arrange for people coming in both by the train stations as well as at the airport and as well as at the city bus stand. And
Mhm.
being a local entity, I was able to make arrangements for people to be received with a banner, both at the railway station as well as at the airport, and then also at the bus stand. So, I mean, I got to
Mhm.
know those professors quite well, and the uh, same goes for some of the other physicians.
Yeah. So if you would look back and maybe you're doing your undergraduate days, what do you think exactly you knew that you wanted to come to the US? And yeah, where do you think that decision exactly took place? Where did you
Well,
come to terms with
actually,
it?
when we were in our final years of medicine, um, there was what's called the United States Information Service at that time. In India, we were quite friendly with the U.S., and it's called USIS. And at some point, I don't know where, but I saw in the magazine or in a newspaper that there's a shortage of physicians in the United States. And as we were, I was discussing with some of my classmates as to what we should be doing. So the first thing we decided was to pick a specialty that we wanted to
Mhm.
be in. And secondly, we had heard about people taking the ECFMG exam,
Mhm.
which was a requirement before you go to the United States. And when I saw that ad,
Mhm.
uh, we talked to some of my classmates. There were a few of us that were closely knit, and we would study together for the exams. Tommy Chandy, Devota Emmanuel, Iqbal Ahmed, Parincheri Narayan, and another person from BMC, Bangalore Medical College, Nagaraj Lingaraju, and also Arun Yasupriya, who was my classmate. So we would meet together and study. And so we all decided to take the ECFMG exam and take a shot at going abroad while we finished our medical school and applied for the senior house officer jobs.
Mhm.
We were successful in being accepted for the exam, and we all went to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia,
Oh,
because India
Malaysia.
was not a site for giving the ECFMG exam at that time. We had just missed it by a few years because they were offering that exam in Madras, which is Chennai now, but we had to go to Kuala Lumpur. And that was quite exciting because we had never traveled abroad, and we thought this would be a great thing to do. So many of our classmates, myself, the people that I named, and Satish Kashyap and
Mhm.
LC Philippos, one of my classmates, we went to we went to Kuala Lumpur and offered the and did the examination. And while we were doing our SHO-ship, we got the results that we had all successfully passed the ECFMG exam, and that's the best time to do it. Actually, I would recommend that all students, if they have any interest in going abroad, they should do the overseas qualifying exams as they are studying and doing it at the same time. So they would have everything fresh in memory, and if they take a few trial exams, then they can get the to know what type of exam it is and how to answer those questions. So that's what everybody should do. Is like the USMLEs now for the United States, you are in your third year, you should be able to take part one and
Yeah.
maybe even part two, right? Because you do qualify for it. So I suggest that that's what you do. And once we finished our ECFMG, then we decided to see how should we apply because there's a physician shortage. And through a lot of research, we found out that you can apply through the resident and intern national matching plan,
Mhm.
and we were able to get somebody to send us a book of that NRMP from abroad to mail it to us. And I got that book and I shared it with all my classmates, and we figured out how to apply. We didn't have internet and we didn't have email in those days. It all had to be done through, regular books, regular letters, and telegrams and things like that. So I shared that book with all my classmates, and I think about 15 of us applied, and we also, because there was a shortage of physicians, we were able to apply for a green card right away.
Okay.
And we filled out the applications, and they called us to Madras to come for the interview.
Mhm.
And we all took the night train from Bangalore to Madras, and we
Wow.
reached there about 6 a.m. We took showers right in the railway station. I remember, you know how it is, and we dressed up and went to the consulate office, and they received us. We were about 10 minutes early. Uh, they received us, and they took our pictures. They fingerprinted us, and they gave us our green card in an envelope right away. So, I mean, they gave
How
us an
times have
envelope.
changed.
They said, you, when you go to the US, you just show this envelope, and then you'll be, they stamped all the
Ah,
things, and the green card would come to us. So those were the days.
how times have changed,
And
sir.
we filled the matching plan and waited for the matching results. We were doing a senior house officership at St. Martha's Hospital, and we found out that we all matched in some program or the other. And I matched in Minnesota. The reason I applied to Minnesota, I applied to 8 programs, and that's all I could afford because you had to pay a fee for each program that you apply
Yeah.
for, and I thought 8 is more than enough. It's quite expensive, um, and I matched at Minnesota.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I got telephone calls both from Denver as well as from Michigan. They called me directly and said, we'd like to have you come and join our residency program in anesthesiology. And I said, sure. Um, but I told them I've already matched at Minnesota. So they said, don't worry, we can handle that part for you. But I was too nervous to change my mind. So I came to Minneapolis through Chicago. The program was to start in July, actually, but I reached there on March 15th, and I called up the I mean, before reaching here, I called up the chairman of the department and I said, I'm coming there on March 15th. So he said, "Oh, you're arriving on March 15th. Come on over. We'll have you start the next day." So I went and met
Immediately.
him, and I didn't have a place to stay. They gave me the call room. I had two suitcases, myself, and then they put me up in a call room, which I stayed for about 10 days till I found a place to stay. And then I started about, 3, 4 days after reaching the department. So that was the way that I started. And all the others came
Amazing.
later, and they
Mhm.
came through New York. And
Uh-huh.
Satish Kashyap, my classmate, he had come a little bit earlier than the others to New York, and he had found his apartment. And the others came slowly, and he would be the one to receive them and get them situated. And most of them were in New York at the time. I was the only one who was away from New York.
How did you end up at anesthesiology, sir? Like, how exactly did you arrive at that decision? Like, that's what you wanted to do in life.
Well, that's a pretty tough. I had interest in both
Mm-hmm.
ophthalmology as well as in anesthesiology.
Mm-hmm.
And when I looked at it, getting into ophthalmology from abroad as an international foreign medical graduate, they would call us FMGs, then now it's called
Mm-hmm.
IMGs. It would be extremely difficult to get into ophthalmology. It was a special field. They had limited number of seats in it, and the priority would be to their own students in the
Mm-hmm.
United States, and especially those who had already done some work in ophthalmology. So I said, okay, that's pretty difficult. And my two ophthalmology professors, both Ramnarayan Rao and K.R. Murthy, who were our professors, they were disappointed that I didn't pursue ophthalmology and went to anesthesiology. And Mary Eapen, who later was called Mary Volapalli, she was one of my teachers, as was Dr. Navneetam, who was also my teacher. And I was drawn to anesthesiology because it demands a deep understanding of physiology,
Mm-hmm.
rapid decision making, teamwork, and a lot of knowledge about medicine and surgery. So you cover a lot of fields, and you can do your work without being in the spotlight, right? You're not typically in the spotlight. So that
Yeah.
has changed now because now we are more in the spotlight than we ever were in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so you should be able to, I was able to solve problems under pressure because that's required in anesthesiology. You have to
Absolutely.
be a rapid decision maker and take action as needed. So it's a powerful field, and it
Mm-hmm.
has certainly been a fulfilling choice for me. It covers a lot of. It's more like perioperative medicine now,
Mm-hmm.
and it's central to patient safety, perioperative outcomes, ICU care, pain medicine, and increasingly technology and AI-driven healthcare, which it has turned out to
Absolutely.
be. Okay, so it's one of the better specialties, I think, where you have to
Uh-huh.
have a good understanding of
Absolutely.
the entire scope of medicine and surgery, and also all ages, from just being born till the end of life. Okay.
Absolutely, sir. And for a lot of these students who maybe in their undergraduate days don't really know what they want to do in the future, how would you say they combat that? How do you think they should decide on their specialties or decide on what they'd like to pursue in the future? What do you think are the factors that should influence that decision?
Well, I think the one of the key things in the way you study for becoming a doctor is you go through many rotations, right?
Yes,
And
sir.
as you go through those rotations, you find out areas that seem to be something that capture your interest, and where you feel most comfortable working around, and where you feel that studying in that particular field would make you an expert. Okay.
Mhm.
Some would say, I want to know a little bit about everything, and they end up in general practice, community medicine. Others want to take part in preventive care, and they might go into public health,
Mm-hmm.
what's known as community medicine at St. John's. And others
Exactly.
might be like you, who might have skills with your
Uh-huh.
hands, you know how to tie knots,
Mm-hmm.
and you see anatomy, something in your head all the time, and you know the relationships of the important structures in the body, and you visualize when a patient has a surgical problem as to how to handle that. So hopefully, as you're going through your training, you pretty much end up in the area that you would like to be. Um, and that's important. So to try to get as much exposure to all the specialties as possible. And sometimes, if like interventional radiology, which is a newer field now than it was when we were studying, is capturing the attention of many people. Same thing with gastroenterology, because we didn't have all the minimally invasive things that are available now, the scopes and ability to do intrascope biopsies, procedures through the scopes. All those were not there now at that time, but they're available now. And so that should help you to make up your mind as to where you would like to end up, because you want to take a field that will keep your interest, and because it'll be something that you'll be doing for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
and see where the expansion possibilities are, where you could contribute,
Mm-hmm.
and the bottom line is where you could help patients the most. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's something that hopefully they can make a decision as to what they would do. Some would think think about the scope of the specialty. Is there opportunity when I finish my training? Would it financially reimburse me to the extent that I would like to be reimbursed? I
Mm-hmm.
don't care about money. I care about what I particularly like. I'll do that. And most medical fields will give you enough money to survive reasonably well, but may not make you rich. But there are other fields that could going to make you rich. So it depends. You have to have a balance between the two. I didn't think about money when I was doing my training, because I wanted to do something that I liked, that offered me an opportunity to expand and also contribute to society and to patient care. And something that I felt I could do comfortably myself and be able to independently do it if needed. So
Mm-hmm.
all those factors should go into making your decision.
So basically, to sum it all up, it would be get exposed, find what you're interested in, don't chase after money, and follow what you're basically passionate in, to sum it all up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, you can chase after money if you like, but you may end up doing something that you don't want to do,
Uh-huh.
but you'll have to become good at it,
Yeah.
because you just can't make money without being good at it.
Exactly. Money follows skill, and I think
Yeah,
that applies in medicine more than others as well.
yeah.
So talking about mentorship as something that you've done remarkably throughout the past few years, and probably your entire life as well. I heard another fact recently about how you've probably helped over 100 different Johnites reach the US in some form or the other, and that statistic was just it. Like so, for somebody who's as involved in mentorship as you, who was your mentor? And if you would look back, who are these people who influenced what your life is today? And some people who you could pinpoint and be like, yeah, uh, that's my
Yeah,
mentor.
the I can't point out to a single mentor.
Mm-hmm.
Even that concept of mentorship was not in
Mm-hmm.
my mind at all, because
Mm-hmm.
because we didn't have that sort of arrangement at St. John's. I wish they did, and I hope they do now. But as we were studying in school, and as we were uh, working in the hospital and clinics, and like my classmate Jayashree Nair, you must have heard about the Jayashree Nair lectureship that happened just a week ago at
Mm-hmm.
St. John's,
Yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
She was my classmate,
Mm-hmm.
and she was very good at pathology, and she was able to bond with the pathology people in the medical school, and so she ended up going into pathology and doing a mass MD in pathology. She went to Vellore and did that, right? So I think as you're growing up, you see who you're bonding with, who seems to where you have the same bandwidth with the faculty that you're working with. And I had a pretty good bandwidth with many faculty. So I had excellent bandwidth with the ophthalmologist. I had an excellent bandwidth with the chief of surgery at that time, and he was eager that I go into surgery.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't like the number of hours you had to stand in one place to operate. I mean, I could do surgery, but I wanted to be able to walk around in the
Mm-hmm.
operating room, not just be in one place. So I knew that I couldn't do that. So Dr. Bansud was the chairman of surgery at that time, head of surgery, and he was disappointed that I didn't take into surgery. But I found that anesthesia, I could do things with my hands. I could think about the physiology, about the problems, and then I bonded with Dr. Mary Eapen Olapalli later, and Dr. Navneetam. So they were my initial guides. And when I told them about applying abroad, they said no problem, and they wrote me nice letters to get into these programs. And also, my professor in physiology, Dr. Sharma, was outstanding in being some sort of a guide. So I didn't have any single mentor. Same thing when I came to Minneapolis at the university. I didn't particularly have any mentor, but my chairman, Dr. Buckley, was pretty good about giving, as a chair, he would guide you. And then I had some other faculty. I ended up doing graduate studies also at the U. Then I found somebody who could be my mentor, who was a person from Taiwan, but he was a professor in anesthesia and also in pharmacology. So he helped me to take the Masters of Science. That's one of the reasons I actually applied to Minnesota because they had a degree program in anesthesiology.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was any other place at in Minneapolis in the U.S. that had a degree in anesthesiology. And when you
Mm-hmm.
come from India, you think getting a degree is better
Degrees.
than going somewhere where they don't have a degree. So they had a Masters of Science in anesthesiology. So I did that, and I also had my minor in pharmacology. And it was a good experience because you learned a lot about the graduate training systems here in the United States and what all it takes, coursework, credits. I never heard about the word credits till I got to the US. Before
Yes, sir.
in India, they don't call it credits, right?
Yeah.
They just call it subjects and you take your exams. So then I realized that later on in life, I realized it's good to have mentors. So then I started mentoring people. And the reason I got involved with this global work is because not only that I wanted to give back to St. John's, but in 1999, the University of Minnesota set up a global program in education, and they formed a committee. They called it the International Medical Education and Research Committee, also known as IMER, IMER. And I was appointed to that executive committee to lead the efforts of this program to India. And so they had members from different parts of the world. We had
Mm-hmm.
somebody from Sweden, somebody from Israel, connections to Israel. I was the one for India, another person with China, somebody in Africa, somebody in South America. And the university decided at that point that every medical student should have a global experience. They should have an elective, and we offered them many countries where we could have that. So in 1999, that IMER had two directors. One was Dr. Phil Peterson, who was an internist and an infectious disease specialist in the Department of Medicine, and the other one was Dr. Paul Kui, and he's a pediatrician and he was also an infectious disease specialist. The two of them were the co-directors of the IMER program. And then we wanted them to connect to India. So we came to India with both of them and with some other faculty. We visited St. John's Medical College. We had meetings with the dean. At that time, it was, I think, Mary Olapalli. We met with Dr. Kurpad, who was the dean for research.
Yeah.
We had all day meetings with every department chief. We sat in
Mhm.
the room next to the dean's office where they had a in the table, and we discussed many things, and we left signing a memorandum of understanding with St. John's Medical College that we would have an exchange program for our students there at St. John's and our students here at Minnesota. So at that time, 6 students were allowed to be selected by the dean that they could come and do electives anywhere from 6 weeks to 3 months. Okay, and St. John said any number of students can come to the Bangalore from Minnesota if they wanted to come and do electives. So we I took them to not only St. John's, we went to Manipal Hospital in Manipal and Mangalore. We also
Mhm.
went to All India Institute of Medical Sciences. We visited Tommy Chandy's Hosmet Hospital to show them places where our students could go. And we also visited Narayana Health. It hadn't started yet, but Devi Shetty was at Manipal Hospital, so we met him, and we also went to uh, the big healthcare at in Delhi. I forget the name, but Trehan is the one
Mhm.
who started it. So we visited his place, and we also went to Nepal and
Mm.
uh, uh, and visited the medical school in Dharan. And
Mhm.
that was recommended by Dr. Sharma, who was a physiology professor, but he was then the on the board of directors at MS Ramaya Medical College. So after going to all these places,
Mhm.
they said St. John seems to be the place to be because it has a good campus, it
Yeah,
has facilities for the students to stay,
absolutely.
and uh, and they had other visitors coming from other countries, so our students would be interacting with some of those international students. So that's how it all started with St. John's. And once we had this in place, as soon as for a few years, St. John's didn't send any students because they didn't care to publicize this to the medical students. You know how St. John's is, right?
Mhm.
So they didn't bother to publicize it. And it was only later when we went back to St. John's to do a workshop, I got a lot of people together from the United States. We did a multi-specialty workshop, and Arun Shet was a fellow here with me, and I told him that you can lead the program, and he was very happy to do that. At that time, we came and we met a lot of students, and we told them this is available to you all, and why aren't you guys using it? So they didn't know about it. So
Mhm.
then they set it in place. So it took a few years after that program, even though we had an MOU to get that going. And I don't exactly know when the first batch came, but we've had 6 students all along until COVID hit in
Mhm.
2020. Right. So at that point, that one year they didn't take any students, and then they dropped it to 4.
Cool.
And we used to get 6 from St. John's and 2 from Manipal, either Manipal itself or Mangalore, the
Uh-huh.
Manipal school in Mangalore. Now the Manipal has been entirely dropped, and St. John's is the only one that's continuing with 4 students. So whenever those students would come, I would be the contact person, and I would be the mentor, and so would Kiran, my wife, who's also from St. John's, would
Oh,
help in being the mentor and guiding them and telling them what to do and things like that. So that's how the hundreds of students have ended up being coming to Minneapolis and being mentored. Many of them have come. They all know because they've been here, right?
Mhm.
I don't even have the list, but it'd be nice if somebody can put that list together.
Absolutely. So we'll get that done. And so, what do you think is the single biggest advantage of a cultural exchange program like this, of a student exchange program? So, not only are we combining the American system of medicine and Indian graduates in both of these ways, what do you think is the single biggest advantage of all of this? What do you think is the single biggest takeaway for both the student and the system itself?
Well, you lived in both countries, right?
I have, yes.
Probably you understand the differences, right?
Absolutely. I could name a few, but I'd like to know from you. You've seen so much more. You've seen firsthand about how these graduates differ, maybe some of the qualities
Yeah.
and what they take away from the program.
Well, the thing is, when you look at the cultural differences,
Hmm.
you can see that the exposure here is, very much structured training,
Yeah.
and there's tremendous research infrastructure, and there's a lot of academic medicine,
Hmm.
and they give you some freedom of thought over here, right?
Hmm.
And you can look at the importance of paying attention to detail, and you don't have the enormous population that you have in India. So,
Hmm.
and all the systems over here are quite different because the ability to what you read in books is
Hmm.
actually going to be able to be happening in clinical care. So you learn how to do a systematic exam, how to do a differential diagnosis, what tests to order, and all those tests are available. And then how you learn to present those cases and discuss the care. And you're given that individual responsibility here as compared to India, where the training is quite different. You have a lot of patients, you learn a lot of clinical things, you see a lot of different diseases very quickly,
Hmm.
and you don't have as much time, and you may not be as structured as it is over here. So there are differences in both schools. And then our students, when they come here, they see all this. They see how the charting and everything is done electronically, and then
Yeah.
how you can recall things from within the record, and
Hmm.
then look at all the possibilities of testing and
The
things that are
resources at
available
hand.
for investigations. When our students come to India, they look at how less administrative oversight there is in
Yeah.
India, and you have the ability to look at many things and to be able to make rapid decisions and learn with a structure which is where you may not have the uh, ability to do all the investigations because things are expensive and they may not be affordable for many people, especially in a missionary hospital. And then they learn about the different practical aspects of using clinical science and being careful in what sorts of tests and investigations you order and being able to treat patients. So, and then there's a cultural barrier also, to see how patients interact, how the consent process is, the understanding of the patients, how patients are willing in India to do whatever you tell them, whereas here they might have lots of questions and you have
Right.
to define what those things are, and before you do anything you got to make sure they understand
Mhm.
and why you're doing it and how teamwork is important, and without that teamwork you may not be able to deliver the care that you can actually do in India. So there are lots of cultural differences and beliefs
Yes,
of
sir.
patients. Some patients would be ready to accept everything and others will not be able to, whereas in India they'll rely a lot, they trust you, and they just hope that you're doing the right job. So, those are all the cultural differences. And then being able to bond with the patients, you see the
Hmm.
differences here, the differences in India, those all go into play.
What are some qualities of, let's say, an Indian medical graduate that a foreigner or somebody in the US could take away from, and vice versa as well? What are some things that you've noticed that the opposite culture has that the other doesn't?
You mean
From the graduate
suppose
itself, like some
an
of the
Indian doctor when
students.
he comes to America?
Yeah.
If an Indian doctor comes to America, I think he or she would have seen a lot more of the disease process at different stages of the disease process, and so would be knowledgeable about that in a more detailed fashion from a clinical point of view. And by seeing that and looking at the response to the treatment, which how it happens in India, that experience might be something that will show up when they come and visit here. And then the I've noticed a difference between training at St. John's
Hmm.
versus training at some of the other institutions in the country.
Hmm.
The in the other institutions they'll have a lot of theoretical knowledge
Yeah.
about the disease, whereas at St. John's they'll not only have theoretical knowledge, they'll have some good practical bedside skills, and that part is good. So there are so many medical schools in India right now, correct?
Extremely.
But I can tell you, I know which ones are good because I can tell by the way the when the graduates come here and we interview them, we can tell that this guy is from a good medical school or not from a good medical school.
Mhm.
So there are differences that we can face see, but I'm glad that St. John's has students that are quite well trained and they understand medicine a lot better and they're able to express themselves quite well. And when our graduates come to your place, you probably find that they have a lot of knowledge,
Hmm.
but they're quite impressed at picking up on their clinical skills when they're there. So they like to learn about the clinical skills. One went to Bangalore, spent 2 weeks at St. John's and 2 weeks at Narayana
Hmm.
because we have MOUs with both places. And at Narayana, he went on a camp where they did ultrasound echo exams of patients in several villages,
Hmm.
children and adults. And he was able to see 75 different congenital heart lesions within 2 weeks because of all the echoes they
Yeah.
did
Uh-huh.
where in the different villages, in the camps that the Narayana took them to. So that type of an experience is something that was extremely valuable for that student.
Yeah. I can imagine so. And in general, both these practices, as we know, are quite different. But if you'd say, what is the single biggest drawback of a medical student, that in an Indian medical student compared to a foreign one? What do you think is some of the qualities that we don't have as compared to the opposite side?
Well, I think the when it comes to physical science and when it comes to clinical judgment, it's very good. But
Mm-hmm.
I think lack of the academic background that the American students have, that part is lacking. And I think thinking of things from an academic point of view is something that the students in India need to have more exposure to. And I think that's because there's very little clinical research, except by a few
Uh-huh.
people who are doing it at the graduate level. And so that has to change. And the ability to properly be able to present cases with a thorough literature review is something that's lacking, and that's something that needs to improve. Those are the main differences, and then not having the capability of being able to do some of the new modern things. But I think that part is decreasing because all these things are now becoming available in India. And then the attention to detail and having proper patient-doctor relationships, those are some of the cultural differences.
Yes, sir. You briefly mentioned research, and you yourself have successfully combined clinical practice with research as well, especially working on cyanide toxicity and the antidotes of the same with your lab. So, how do you think an Indian medical student, especially with the limited resources and at an undergraduate level, as you said, could begin building a research profile that truly actually matters and could help them in not only contributing to society, medical society as a whole, but also maybe building an interest at the ground level. How do you think an Indian medical
Yeah.
graduate could go about that?
I think the structure, the educational structure, and the systems, the faculty have to be a little bit flexible
Mm-hmm.
in India, and they're not very flexible because they limit themselves to what the medical MCI or the requirements are, right?
Yeah.
For instance, when I was the reason medical students from here don't come to do anesthesia at St. John's is because they don't allow medical students to do much during their rotation at St. John's. Whereas
Okay.
medical students, when they rotate here in anesthesiology, we make them do as much as possible at the bedside. And when I asked the anesthesia department, why is it that these students are not allowed to do that? Well, we don't allow our students because our medical council doesn't want us to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, okay, they may not want you to do that, but you can change. You can have them do what you think is necessary for them to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, use your capabilities to do that, and that way you might attract more students to go into the specialty, but they're unwilling to budge, right? So that makes it a little bit of a problem. The other thing is many of the students I don't think they're given the opportunity to do research by themselves. So if
Mm-hmm.
some students want to do, the faculty should be willing to collaborate and participate with them,
Mentor.
right? When I
Mm-hmm.
was a student at St. John's, and when I came to do when I did a little elective in anesthesia, and I was doing my house officer, we had one patient who came with Guillain-Barré syndrome, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was unable to breathe. She was going to die. But we decided, I said, okay, if she's unable to breathe, why don't we just breathe for her, right? I was an anesthesia, new student.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we just ventilate her? So we ended up first mask ventilating her with an ambu, right, to
Mm-hmm.
keep her alive. And then we said, okay, let's intubate her. Then we intubated her. We didn't have any respirators. So we had to ventilate her by hand continuously, okay? And luckily her family was quite cooperative, and this lady was very alert, except the fact that she was weak from a disease and she couldn't breathe. And if you didn't breathe for her, she would die. But the family was willing to actually take turns, and we educated them to ventilate with using the ambu bag. So 3 weeks of continuous ventilation was provided. We did a trach on her, and all of this was initiated by us, the students, right?
Wow.
Which we were able to convince the people to do. And then they all did that. Finally, at 3 weeks, she started to recover her respiratory function, and she was alive. So that's the type of thing the students should learn to do, and they should try to look for opportunities to do something that doesn't cost money. It just puts your brain and your effort to do things together and write those things up, right? And I was able to present that at a meeting in Bangalore of the anesthesia society. That's the local society. So that really helped me to match in good programs over here. So those are the things that the students here will be doing. We have now every medical student has to do a minimum of 2 to 3 weeks of anesthesia in the university here.
Mhm.
And if they want to do more, then they do what's called a research elective in anesthesia. So they're allowed to do a research elective, which can be up to 6 weeks. So there's
Mhm.
the medical curriculum can be flexible. They can get time to do these things. I don't know if the curriculum allows medical students to do that in India because
Uh,
they don't have any time, right? How about even in the summer or anything? There's no vacation or time that you can use. So those are
Definitely.
things that need to change in India for doing research. Um, I don't know if you can take off for a year and then start again. Is that possible?
It's a gamble, so I think it's not something that's widely practiced. A lot of
Yeah,
students don't do that. It doesn't look good on your record and a couple of other things.
yeah. So right now you have to do research voluntarily, and
Yeah.
you have to look for projects yourself and see how you can fit in.
Mhm.
If the faculty are doing research, maybe you can help them by staying after class and working on it. I'm not sure how to do that, but that's something that the students should try to work on.
Yes, sir. And looking at the practicality of the research as well and the applications of what you're doing in the medical world, for example, your research currently, I think, was about cyanide toxicity and sulfogen as a potential antidote is something that I think you were working on. So how do you
Yeah,
come
so
on
this one
these?
I'll tell you
Yes,
how I
sir.
ended up
Yes, sir.
by doing this. I mean, I was very lucky in a way that I had a research inclination.
Hmm.
And right from the first day, I've been thinking about research, about how I can do with whatever I'm doing clinically also, right?
Yes, sir.
So the first project I did actually was I found out that people were getting a lot of sore throats after endotracheal intubation, much more than what's been reported in the literature. And in one patient, the sore throat became totally where he was not able to breathe at all. So when the patient came and he was not able to breathe, I did a laryngoscopy on him because I was a resident on call, and I pulled out a big membrane from his larynx and trachea, and I pictured that membrane, and then he could breathe. Uh, on further inspection, what we found was the endotracheal tubes we were using were being cleaned with glutaraldehyde, and that glutaraldehyde was not properly being washed off. And when we intubated them, that glutaraldehyde reacted with the tracheal mucosa and created a membrane that caused, first, it created an inflammation, so people had sore throats. But in some people, like this particular patient, it created a membrane and caused an obstruction. So then I figured out something is wrong, and then we traced it all back to the glutaraldehyde, and that was my first report in a big journal like anesthesiology, right, which was accepted. And then I started to do research on malignant hypothermia,
Hmm.
thermoregulation, because people were, getting cold and people were shivering. And this cyanide stuff came up because I met the guy who was working on sulfanogen, and he didn't know how to test this in a biological system. I mean, they can do it in rats and mice. So I said, okay, since I was doing my Masters of Science in anesthesiology, I had worked on dogs where I studied hemorrhagic shock and hemorrhagic hypotension and resuscitation, because we had a surgeon who would do prostatectomies and who would do testicular cancer treatments. He was very successful in his outcomes, but at the same time, he would lose a lot of blood because for testicular cancer, he would take not only the whole testis, but he'd take out all the lymph nodes. He would just grab the lymph nodes in the abdomen and cut them like that, and then he would cut many times the inferior vena cava, and the patients would almost bleed to death, right? So then we had to resuscitate them. So I said, okay, what will I do for my Masters of Science thesis? And I decided I'll study hemorrhagic shock and look at hemorrhagic shock and resuscitation. And I did that in dogs and was able to meet Dr. Gans, who was the inventor of the Swan-Ganz catheter. I flew out to Los Angeles and met him because I wanted to measure the coronary sinus flow as a measure of coronary blood flow during hemorrhagic shock and hypotension to see why patients actually die. So he helped me make a special catheter that I was able to put radiologically into the coronary sinus of hearts when the dogs were being bled. So having worked with those animals, I met this guy who was working on sulfanogen, at a some conference in the university, and I said, well, we can try this experiment in pigs. We can give them sodium nitroprusside, make them toxic with cyanide because sodium nitroprusside breaks down into cyanide, and we'll keep the blood pressure under control with vasopressors. We get them really toxic, and then we'll test your sulfanogen. So that led to 10 years of NIH grant support of over $3 million, $3 to $4 million to do the research. And that was my main research for 10, 12 years. Now the sulfanogen is available. It's been tested in different formulas, different types of solutions and stable solutions, etc. And they're working on an automatic injector. So that's how I got into cyanide research, and then we would then use cyanide directly intravenously and test the antidote because we were afraid to handle cyanide in the lab. But once we figured it out, we were able to do it. But that ended up being a big project for the university.
Is this the project that you're most proud of? If you had to name one of the research projects or one of the things that you worked on in your entire life that you're the most proud of, what would that be?
Yeah, this was one of the ones that was funded the longest, but I think it'll be the biggest discovery for mankind because they can use it in biologic warfare, and they can
Mm-hmm.
use it in massive casualties, and we're done with the research. The drug is all ready, and now the university is trying to find a buyer for it.
Amazing. So, and yeah, so basically, at the end of it, if you'd like to summarize, research is so basically you make an observation, and then on top of this observation, you add your own thoughts, and at the end of the day, you have a research topic. Is that how you'd go about it? Is that the flow? Generating a research topic, generating is something that you're interested in, and
Yeah, I
passionate,
think
truly passionate research.
it's always some issue that needs a solution
Prevalent.
that leads
Mm-hmm.
to the problem, and then you figure out how to solve it. Like I'm working now on
Mm-hmm.
this pollution problem that's all over the world, and especially in
Mm-hmm.
India. So I'm
Definitely
working on
so.
a product which is being made in India and which is being developed in India, and we are going to do the studies with St. John's, leading it, the
Mm-hmm.
St. John's Research Lab. So the prototype is being made in India. So this product ended up because in COVID we had to come up with a system where we could breathe without getting infected. So I had to come up with a system that you could breathe freely, not worried about getting infected through the nasal passages. And I came up with a system that's we're working on a prototype. So that problem led to this decision and thing. I have a few more minutes because my next Zoom call is coming up.
Oh yeah, sure, sir. I'll end up quickly.
You
I
conclude
wanted
in
to
a
ask.
minute.
Yeah, sure, sir. I wanted to ask one more question. There must have been a bunch of failures as well, right? Is there one failure that, looking back, you're really secretly grateful for?
Yeah, there are always, the thing with failures is that you shouldn't get disappointed
Mm-hmm.
because nothing is easy and you can always end up with failures. So, like this thing about being able to breathe without having to worry about wearing a mask. We've tried quite many systems, and we've taken a while to come up with something that actually be comfortable and easy to wear. So it takes trial and error. Even with sulfanogen and cyanide, we didn't know what the dose should be and whether it works intramuscularly. We knew it worked intravenously, but then we had to find a formula that works intramuscularly. So it took us 10 years to get that done, right? And then there are some projects which don't succeed at all. You could be totally going on the wrong track.
Yes, sir.
But those are the things you learn the most from because you learn that how things will not work and how it could be an error. So errors should not be something that should disappoint you. It should always be something that should make you
That you build
think
upon.
and you learn from those errors.
Yes, sir. And just to wrap up, if you'd like to leave a message for all of your younger journalists and all of the people here on campus and people looking to go and start their careers in medicine, what message would you like to leave them who are just beginning their journey?
Well, I think I want to thank the alumni, especially the ones that I'm working with in the United States and also in
Mm-hmm.
India, that it's a great way to link students, provide them with mentorship and opportunities and global perspectives, you know. It's about the connection that helps the most. And that's one of the reasons some of my colleagues and myself, we've set up
Mm-hmm.
the Belani BB Nagobi Global Health uh, Educational Fund. So we are
Mm-hmm.
working on raising money for that fund,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully people will help. And then this JLI initiative that you're working on
Yes,
with
sir.
Dr. Dominic
Mm-hmm.
Shrestha. He's done a great job, and the support being provided by doctors like Eddie Pinto,
Yes, sir.
Dr. Baliga, and others who are working hard to get this initiative going. All the students that are helping, youngsters, alumni, you know, it's a great way to get the alumni together and get the junior people to
Mm-hmm.
get the proper mentorship they need.
Yes, sir.
So I think that's what we would like, and it has worked for other institutions like CMC, and I've had the opportunity to have directors from the St. John's come and actually stay with me. Dr. Patrick Rodriguez, Dr. Lawrence D'Souza, they've all come to Minnesota. They spent a few days here. I've taken them around to almost every department. I've had visits to St. John's with leadership many, many times, but very little has actually come out of it other than the one program for the students. We've had faculties come and visit and be part of the interaction, but nothing really has happened from St. John's at the leadership level. The nursing school, the School of Public Health, the medical school, our president, our deans have come to St. John's with many people, many visits, but St. John's has not reacted in a positive way to build a strong relationship with the University of Minnesota. So that has been a little disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope things will improve, and I had hoped that this relationship was even better. Dr. Kurpat was actually an adjunct professor in the Department of Medicine,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd hoped that he would come and spend some time here with Dr. Peterson and Dr. Kui, who invited him and gave him the opportunity to be on an adjunct professorship, but he never came. And Dr. Kui, who is now 101 years old,
Mm-hmm.
gives his best to St. John's students, and so does Dr. Peterson. And I owe them a lot because they are the ones who made this relationship happen.
Yes, sir. Well, on behalf of a lot of the students here, we extend you a lot of gratitude. We've heard of the work that you've done. A lot of our seniors have been really, really grateful towards all of this exchange programs and basically all of the work that's going in from your side. And we just like to extend it really, really. And we're really grateful, sir, for all of that. And it's been an honor to speak with you today. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
your time.
We'll stay in
And
touch, okay?
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
sir. Have a nice day. And so thank you very much for joining me.
Okay.
I don't think the F block was there when you were a part of St. John's at all, right? So how many blocks were there back then?
Pardon?
How many block? Which block did you stay
There
in,
were
sir?
A,
The
B, C,
hospital.
and D.
Uh-huh. There's two more. There's the E block and the F block, which have been added quite recently. So yeah, they're quite new buildings, really nice buildings, and
Yeah.
that's where I
Are
currently
you
reside.
recording also?
I am recording as well.
I don't know if it'll record on both. I hope it does.
I
So
think
anyway,
it
it's showing that
is.
it's recording for you.
It is showing that it's recording for me. Is it showing that it's recording for you, sir?
Okay, good. As long as it's recording, that's great.
Hmm.
Okay, so you're going in your fourth year. That's nice.
So just about to
What are your
start.
future plans?
I really want to come to the US, and I have this incredible passion. I really, really want to pursue surgery. I've dreamt of it for a really long time, and it's
Hmm.
something that I've really wanted to do. So surgery
Yeah,
for me, and I've lived a lot of my life in the US actually. Uh, from about when I was born. I was born in India, but after that I moved to the US fairly quickly. And then I was there until my third grade, and then I was there for the past 2 years. My parents were living there as well. So a lot of my childhood has been in the US. So it's been a
do
goal
you
of
have a
mine to end up.
US citizenship then?
I don't, but my very own sister, my younger sister, is a US citizen, yes.
Hmm. So your parents were the ones who were traveling?
Yeah, we were just accompanying,
Hmm.
I guess.
Okay, so what do they do?
So my dad's a software engineer in Wipro. He's currently working for Wipro. And my mom's a accountant, a chartered accountant in Grant Thornton, which is a accounting company there in the US. So she does US tax, and my dad's in the software business.
Okay.
And
Well,
you,
that's
sir,
good
you
to
have
know
any
that you're
children? Any?
connected to India, I mean to the US.
Uh-huh. That's the goal.
If you're interested in surgery, then there's Dr. Cheng, who's a
Hmm.
Johnite. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, Dr. Avian Cheng. I think I attended a meeting where he was a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
got
he
to
was
speak with
one
him
of
too.
our students who rotated here,
Hmm.
and he also did an extension where
Hmm.
he did. At that time, there was an opportunity to do kind of a research fellowship, so
Hmm.
he did that, and
In the
so he was
University of
able to do
Minnesota or somewhere else, sir?
at the University of Minnesota. But sometimes opportunities come up, and you're right there, so that
Hmm.
helps.
Absolutely. I mean,
Okay,
that's a
so you
goal,
got to
sir.
keep.
Yeah.
Good.
Do you have any children, sir?
Yeah, I have two. They're both adults and both married and both having children. So I'm a grandfather.
Oh, is that recent or quite a while now?
No, they've been my one granddaughter is about 8 years old.
Uh-huh.
The other is 5, and my son is 4. I mean, grandson is 4.
Mhm. And all of them live in the US with you?
Yeah, they were all born. They were all. One was born here and one was born in India, but they
Hmm.
are both U.S. Living in the U.S. When my daughter is an attorney and my son is
Oh,
an internist.
oh, that's amazing. An attorney. What kind of law does she
Mhm.
practice?
It's mostly mergers and acquisitions.
Oh, complicated business.
Yeah.
Very complicated business.